Hi everybody, welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East update. It's the week of May 23rd. Right from the get-go, I always remind our watchers and listeners to go to our website at holygroundexplorations.com in order to access the PDF PowerPoint that accompanies this video presentation. There's much more information, pictures, etc. in that PowerPoint, so make sure you grab that. Just a promo. Basically, I want to encourage you all to either be praying about coming or looking for folks that you think might be interested in joining Holy Ground for our next tour to Israel, which we call the Issachar Tour. Again, every one of our tours seeks to do two things. We want to present both the Israel of the Bible as well as the Israel of today. And with what's going on in our world today, this Issachar trip is weighted a bit more towards that, the Israel of today. You can get all the information and forms you need from our website. We do have about a month left as far as keeping it open for sign-ups, so keep that in mind and shoot us an email or whatever if you have any questions, if you're interested, and if any way you can help us get the word out about this trip, we'd love to partner with you on that. So let's jump into this week's presentation for our update. I always begin sort of with my musings and thoughts for the week. Did you know that it was in 1995 that Congress passed the Jerusalem Embassy Act, which ordered the embassy relocated from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? That was in 1995. The House voted 374 to 37, and the Senate 93 to 5. 1995, but it took over 20 years for that act to actually be implemented and the embassy moved. And we celebrate the 1-year anniversary this week of Donald Trump moving our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And I must say that every group that we've taken over the last year to Israel has one request. You see the picture here. Can you take us to the embassy in Jerusalem? We just want our photos taken from there. And I'm just glad on our watch that America has taken the stand, and over the last 2-3 years of Trump's administration, that we have blessed and stood with Israel. Needless to say, I don't agree with all of the policies. I don't agree with one side or another 100%. But in this one particular thing, I'm proud to be an American that stands with Israel, and I'm proud of our president for moving our embassy there. Again, it's now been 1 year. Now, in relationship to just kind of what I call news bites, things that I just kind of want to use as a jab to keep you alerted to things that are going on in Israel. That basically doesn't come out to be a full-blown article, just sort of news bites, like that's what I call it. So the latest study of American college campuses shows that nearly 40% of the colleges that were surveyed did not have even one professor on their faculty who identified himself or herself as Republican. This really does confirm that liberal indoctrination in the classrooms, politics is no myth. This is what is taking place. Now, as we think about this so-called peace plan, and we think of Fatah, and we think of Hamas, and up north it's Hezbollah, and over in the Syrian side of things we've got we've got ISIS, we've got Iranians and this sort of thing. I want you to understand the difficulties of having any true meaningful negotiations with peace. Amid this a wave of hot, dry weather, there were 9 fires that were caused in southern Israel on Wednesday by these devices, these these incendiary devices that are let go and released to have the winds of the Med float them over to the other side, land in the fields of Israel, and start fires. These are launched by the terrorists in the Hamas-ruled Gaza. On these balloons, they're kids' balloons. And so they have cartoons, they have emojis, they have, I've seen them say, "We heart, we love you." And again, attached to the balloons are these devices that when it lands, erupt and start fires. So when we hear about ceasefires and things such as that, you have to understand that the hatred of the Jewish people is not a weed that you can just mow over. These have deep, deep roots. And in order to have any hope for peace, these have to be rooted out. Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, promised that President Donald Trump's deal of the century will be unveiled this summer. And finally, with all this, the clashings of rhetoric with Iran and the U.S. right now, and troops and being moved in aircraft carriers and bombers or whatever, Trump is warning that if Tehran attacks, it will be the official end of Iran. Amid soaring Gulf tensions, the U.S. has warned the Islamic Republic never to threaten the United States again. Well, now one of the articles that you'll see I call it Feel the Burn. Bernie Sanders, when interviewed on NBC News Meet the Press, he's one of the leading candidates for the 2020 Democratic Party. He was asked if he would move the U.S. Embassy out of Jerusalem back to Tel Aviv if elected. He hesitates, he stammers, he stumbles, but eventually he answered, yes. I would move the embassy, quote, and here, get ready for the rhetoric, the mantra, in order to bring people together to try to bring peace. Right. Then he goes on to call Benjamin Netanyahu's government a racist government. So just so you know, it's important to know where our candidates stand in relationship to Israel. New article, Syria is now accused once again, this is a big deal, of a chemical attack. Quoting, unfortunately, we continue to see signs that the Assad regime may be renewing its use of chemical weapons, including an alleged chlorine attack in northwest Syria, the morning, which happens to be the last of the rebel strongholds, on the morning of May 19th. The quote goes on to say, we're still gathering information on this incident, but we repeat our warning that if the Assad regime uses chemical weapons, the United States and our allies will respond quickly and appropriately. This week, back to this banter back and forth between Iran and the U.S. and, of course, Israel. The tensions between Iran and Washington, they reach kind of new heights. And Khamenei gives a quote this week, and he says, Iran's youth will witness the demise of Israel and American civilization. And then going on to this so-called nuclear deal that the U.S. pulled out of, Khomeini goes on to say, the way the nuclear deal was put together into action, I didn't have much faith in it. And then 2 weeks ago, he notified the remaining signers to that deal, China, France, Germany, Russia, and the United Kingdom, that Iran would halt some commitments under the nuclear deal a year after the United States again has unilaterally withdrawn from this accord. The reason this is important, as well as the previous article, in terms of this chemical warfare that's taken place, these are red lines. These are red lines that both the U.S. under Trump as well as Israel under Netanyahu will not ignore. Do not put it past Israel, who has first strike capabilities and a history of this, to make sure that Iran does not come into the possession of nuclear weapons. Well, we're running out of time this week. There was a so-called ceasefire. You can read the details on it. At the end of it, I just read it. It was this week. Again, Gaza, Israel ceasefire, all this stuff detailed. It didn't last a day. Okay, I talked about those balloons that floated over. It didn't last one day. So in conclusion, let me encourage you, if you have friends, family members that would be interested in this community of believers that we call KFIR, which means young lions. We really seek to be biblically literate, to be like the sons of Issachar, to understand the times, to be men and women that are devoted to prayer as well. Again, if you're interested in joining this community, it's free. You can see on the last slide just how to do that. So with that, God bless. Shalom until next week.